Good. So we've never done one of these before, but one thing that I want to do is I want to try to make sure that all of our football families, players and parents, can understand a little bit of the depth behind some of the things that we do. Some of the things that we've communicated really well over years past, I'll try not to assume that you guys fully understand all that. So I've got Cam here, and he's just going to ask me some questions, and we're going to kind of just go back and forth. And this is just meant to be a short little video to help you guys understand how our off season works and some of the important things that we do in our off season. So Cam, what do you got for me?
So that one Friday afternoon when we came in here
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about goals, and so what do you really mean by lifestyle goals?
Yeah, so I think everybody in our off season goes through and we'll have a weight room goal. And that's really easy to understand. You get something that's measurable because you get results off of what you measure and you praise. So like a measurable weight room goal for the next 2 months, that's easy to understand. But a lifestyle goal is what we've realized makes the biggest difference. We always talk about getting better every day. That's how you get better every day. So examples of that would be something just as simple as making sure that you sleep 7 or 8 hours every day, or going to bed with a PM on the clock, not an AM on the clock. Those are some examples. And other ones that we really talked about was just making your bed every day. That kind of gets you in the routine of being proactive. They get you in the routine of being accountable for your own actions. Drinking water, continuing to drink that gallon of water every day, even in the off season, is really, really important. And then the fourth thing that we really kind of talked about, which I was really proud of our guys, is just how we kind of monitor our phones, how we can make sure that at night we put it into sleep mode at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or put it in another room, or put it on do not disturb, or even just the simple idea of just putting it in your left pocket rather than your right pocket. And those are the kind of things that, while in and of themselves, that little simple habit might seem not complicated, it can really, really lead to benefits. So that's what we mean when we say lifestyle goals. And then we'll sit down as a group and in small kind of groups and talk about it every 2 months so that we can all hold each other accountable, and they become group goals that we're all trying to work towards together. So that's what we mean right now about lifestyle goals.
All right, Coach. So I see everybody trying out for these 7-on-7 teams, and I see them working out with these personal trainers. So I just wanted to ask you what you think about them in general.
Yeah.
Organizations.
Good old 7-on-7. Here is my number one piece of advice about 7-on-7 and personal trainers. And this is a generalized stereotypical statement. Sometimes those organizations will tell players, specifically football players, what they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear. So one thing that I'm able to do as far as 7-on-7 is concerned is when we do it in the summertime, that's our offense, that's our guys, and we're not necessarily out there trying to win each 7-on-7, but it's a part of the process and how to get better. Now, the way that the state has organized our calendar, there's a good chunk of time that we can't do those things. And specifically in the late winter and early spring, we can't get together officially and throw 7-on-7 or go out and work on certain things. So if you want to go out and have a personal trainer or do 7-on-7, that's fine, go do it. But look at it as something that you want to do for fun. If you can look at it and basically the same idea is like what we would do when we were going to play pickup basketball, we would do it, to get better a little bit, but really just because we enjoyed it and it was fun. That's really my main advice as far as 7-on-7 is concerned. If you enjoy it, then go do it, go have fun. But realize that it's not real football. And a lot of those different groups will tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. So should we go do 7-on-7? Yeah, if you want to, go do it. Go have fun with it. But don't do it because you feel like you have to go get exposure. Don't do it because you feel like you're pressured to, or you're going to be behind if you don't. And especially depending on a couple different positions, you can pick up some bad habits. And so just as long as you have those things in the back of your mind. So if you know that when you're back there that you can't just sit back there and bounce for 15 seconds
Right.
and then throw a deep post, that's not real life, then go do it and go have fun. Same thing with personal trainers. Like if you want to go do some of that outside after we've done our after school lift or after you've lifted in class here, then go do it. But as soon as the season starts, you really want to cut all that out so you're not burning yourself out. We're very intentional about the workload that we put on you guys. So that's kind of the same thing as far as personal trainers are concerned. Does that make sense? You have any follow-up questions there, or you feel
No,
good?
sir, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach, what's your advice for recruiting, and what can you do to help me and other players out?
Oh man. So One thing about recruiting is, one, I love being a part of it. I love being here to help you guys through it, because the biggest thing, well, there's a lot of really big things to understand. And this is one of the more complicated things, that the way that it actually works is different than the perception when you start high school. So most people, when you think about getting recruited, you think about the ESPN Top 500. You think about the 5 stars on 24/7. And the way that those guys get recruited, and you hear about the offers that kids get as freshmen, like those couple hundred guys, that process is drastically different than almost every person that plays high school football and wants to go to the college process. So some couple big points to think about as far as advice is concerned for recruiting. You want to understand, one, the timeline. That most of recruiting is going to happen after your senior season. So yes, before your senior year, it's really good to go through and do a couple 1-days, to go to the 1-day camps, to go run your 40s, to go get in front of a couple colleges, to go to the camps that, and still this is different. This is already one of the things that's changed. There's not as many like mega 1-days where you've got 30 schools all together. But you want to go, and you want to go to the places that you're interested in. You want to get a variety of places to go. You want to not just go to every ACC school. You want to go ahead and go to a couple D2 schools in smaller places. So one, you can get the feel of that campus. You can get in front of a variety of different coaches. But the biggest thing about 1-days, not just for when you're going into your senior year, but when you are younger, you want to get used to competing against not your teammates, but seeing how good the overall talent level is of people you're competing against. Like I remember, back in the Stone Age when I was going through the recruiting process myself, and when I showed up to college, I mean, our left tackle was 6'8", 330 pounds. Like it was just the different level is stark. And that's one thing that everybody that's gone through the process here has seen. When you go to the top end camps, when you go to the top end like 1-days and combines, you see, oh, that's the kind of guy that gets a D1 offer. That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And so just being able to open your eyes to that is probably one of the main things that I would advise against, or though I would give you the advice on. The other thing is, you don't need to go to 7-on-7s for exposure. You don't need to pay for recruiting services. So we talked earlier about the difference between getting told what you need to hear and what you want to hear. Recruiting services, for the most part, are just a waste of money. All that's going to do is kind of get your foot in the door. That's going to get your name on a sheet of paper, which this is one thing that is important to understand. Every single school around, every single one, from James Madison to State to Bridgewater, already has your name and has had your name since you were a freshman.
Yeah.
And so anybody that has those aspirations, once they tell me that, they're on a spreadsheet. And I have a link to that Google sheet, and I can text that and get it to every single coach that comes by. Because you guys have seen college coaches still come through by the dozens. They come through around Christmas, and they come through again in the spring. And there's exponentially more that will just text me and reach out. And we'll have those conversations. And that's where it's better now, because our network is much better. Like, we've been here for a long time, and we know people all around. So recruiting services, for the most part, just get your name on a sheet of paper, and all these colleges they'll come in with that sheet. And most of the times, like, Coach, who do you got? And I'll give them, they'll already have my spreadsheet of the more updated, more relevant information. So there's a lot of people out there, and especially there's some with some really good intentions as far as recruiting services are concerned, that the process is just, it's different than what they might foresee. And then when I go through and I text my buddies that are at even Power 5 schools that I played with and I've been friends with for years, they won't have heard of any of those guys sometimes. So what other questions you got for me?
So say you get invited to these camps, like through emails and stuff.
Yes.
Do you recommend going to any of those?
You cannot go to everyone that you get invited to via email, because like I said, depending on where you are in the process, your email has been sent to almost every school that I've talked to. So hundreds of schools have had your email since your freshman year, and they all want you to come to camp because that's how their GAs get paid. Like that's just kind of how it works. Like there's and that's fine. Like it's good, but they're gonna want as many people to come to camp as possible and pay the $40 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because as those things continue to add up, and that's how the GAs can get a little extra money. And it's not that it's sinister. It's just the economics of it.
Yes, sir.
So you want to go to the ones that you're interested in or that you get a feel about, or just ask me.
Okay. Yes, sir. So based on like the recruiting part, what age does it really start to pick up for younger kids trying to learn how the recruiting process
The-
works?
Only thing that you need to do before you're your age,
Mhm.
before you're finishing your junior year or going in your senior year, is make sure your grades are as good as possible. You want to go to a couple one-day camps, combines, just so you can get the feel of it.
Mhm.
But also, you make a Twitter account and put a very short highlight clip on there, and that's it. That's all you got to do, because then and then I'll kind of take care of the rest in the networking. The other kind of overarching thing that comes in later, I can get you in the door with any school, whether that be my buddies at Clemson to Carolina to a smaller school, but I can't make them like you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on them, and that's why they have the massive recruiting departments and teams.
Yes,
And every school is a little different in how they do that. So what we can do now, especially based on how long we've been here in our network that we have, I can get you in the door anywhere.
Mhm.
But then it's between whether or not they like you or not.
Mhm.
And every school recruits a little differently. You're not the tallest guy in the world. And
Yeah.
so every school we have to kind of go through and say, all right, what are you looking for? Like, what
Mhm.
positions are you focusing on this year? And then what kind of things do you have to check off?
Yes, sir. With the whole new transfer portal thing,
Yeah.
what would you say about that, and how is that affecting like our recruiting and everybody else's recruiting?
So we opened in 2015.
Mhm.
And even since then, recruiting has changed drastically, probably twice over.
Mhm.
So it kind of evolved. And then honestly, in the last couple of years, a lot of the bigger schools, and really schools at every level, you're not going to bring in 25 high school guys anymore now. And every school's a little different in how they use the portal. But it really is impacting high school recruiting as much as, like, even more than anyone thought possible.
Mhm.
Because a lot of schools are worried about, honestly, them keeping their jobs and staying on the next 2 years, and then much rather have somebody that's got 2 years of college experience and they see tape that they can judge a little bit more evenly. So that really, really has impacted things. It's impacted how many coaches come in the building on a regular basis, and it's impacted the amount of kids they can take in their class. And the quarterback position is the worst. There's plenty of guys that we've had come through, and I've talked to different college coaches that they would have taken as a walk-on and liked in their room, and they're like, no, I've got 8 quarterbacks in my room right now, and I'll go get a junior anytime that they need to. So the unintended consequences of the transfer portal are kind of what we're dealing with now. And so that really has kind of changed that dynamic. So the moral of the story is, when you're thinking about places that you want to go to school, go somewhere that you feel wanted. Go somewhere that when you walk on campus, your gut has good feelings. And then the final thing is go somewhere that you're going to like being at, even if you take football out of the equation. Even if you have a devastating injury, or it doesn't end up working out the way that you thought it would, or you get there and you end up playing behind somebody that played in the league for 9 years, hypothetically speaking. You want to go to a place that you're going to be happy at, even if you take football out of the equation. And then what we do, just like timeline-wise, another important factor to think about is, yes, most of it happens after you finish playing your senior year. And so what I do, as soon as our season ends, I brought all the seniors in here, and we talked about it. Anybody that was interested in the process, we talked about what kind of questions to ask, what it's going to look like when colleges come through, and how I'll pull them out of class to talk to coaches, questions that they should be ready for college coaches to ask them, questions they can ask. And then, like a lot of what our guys are doing now in January and February, is now they're starting to go on visits. And so we had some guys go up to Bridgewater or Randolph-Macon, and they go up for the day, or they go up for an overnight. And that's really kind of how they get a feel of what they want to do. But once it gets into that part, and once I've opened the door for you, then it's how you nurture that relationship with them and how interested they are in you. So those are kind of those things. Ooh, one last thing about recruiting. College coaches don't care about stats. They want to see whether or not you're explosive and you're a difference maker. And they want to see if you're going to make their position room better. Are you going to be a good addition holistically? But how many touches you get a game, that doesn't matter. It's what you do with those touches.
Yes, sir.
So, no, it's really complicated. Any other individual questions, just feel free to ask me one-on-one.
All right, Coach. So I've been hearing a lot about these families that we do here.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, like, how does a freshman get into a family, and like, how do families work?
Look, that we've done a lot of things over the years, and one thing that they getting better every day, we're going to look at our off-season program every year and see what's a better way to do it. Like we did things really well in 2015 and 17 and 20, and now we're looking at better ways to do it. It's one of the best things that we've added is our families. And so as soon as the freshmen get here that first week, we'll have already established who our family heads are. So the whole coaching staff picks the family heads during spring practice. And so in that first week of when freshmen show up, we'll just place them with a senior. We'll place them with a family head. And so that's their number one person to go to with questions. So that when they show up, they don't have to just try to remember all the different guys on staff. They know that they can go to your 4 or 5 freshmen, can go to you, and you can help show them, this is how we weigh in, this is where your pads go, this is where we store everything, this is where you can put your water, this is where you put your cleats, just all the little things that you guys don't even think about anymore. You can be there for those freshmen and help them out. So that's a great question.
How do you get in on the emails to get any of the updates and all the information about upcoming like practices like spring ball and summer ball?
Perfect question. Number one thing to do is just kind of go on Twitter. Like I know that Twitter is very old school these days, but just go on Twitter at AF Patriot FB, and then there's just a link there. So there's a Google interest form. It's the same one y'all filled out when you were in middle school. Wait, you come over here. And what that does is I will send out a regular email. So in the season it's weekly, and in the off season it's pretty much monthly. And as soon as you get on that email list, you get on my spreadsheet, and then you get all the information that we could have. So basically, we'll work out Monday through Thursday in the mornings in the summertime. We will take 3 big weeks off. So when you're thinking summer schedule, we'll work out for 3 weeks in June, and then the first 3 weeks in July, we're giving you guys completely off. That's when you go take your vacations, check out, relax, rest your body, rest your mind, and then come back fresh, ready to go for that last week of July, because then we're pretty full speed after that.
And then I heard about a team camp last year. So what does that look like this year? And like, how does that help the team as like a whole?
I love taking you guys to team camp. It was one of our favorite things pre-COVID, and one of the first things as soon as we could do that again, we really enjoyed doing. So it'll look a little different this year, and we don't take freshmen to team camp just for kind of general purposes. You guys, those guys have enough to worry about. But we'll go spend 48 hours either in Pickle City or over near Barton, and it's just a really, really good time to get better, to bond, to let the family heads draft the rest of their family, and to probably get a little bowling in when we can. All right, any other questions?
I'm good.
Good.
All right, that's kind of just a little snippet of who we are as a program. If this video works, we'll do more of them. If it doesn't, this will be one and done. But we're just trying to, our program's really special to all of us, not just me, and how we mold men and how we try to teach you guys the lifestyle goals of how to get better and how to improve holistically, not just on the field. And so all the emphasis that we put on grades and how we monitor those grades and having to make sure that you're having A, B, or C in almost all your classes in order to attend spring practice. These are just a bunch of the little things that I assume that people understand, and I'm trying to do a better job of just communicating that out as good as possible, because we've got a special thing here. We want to keep it going and make it better each time. So thanks so much.